A millionaire walked through the halls of Valentim Hospital holding his newborn son, celebrating life. Then he saw her, a 12-year-old girl in the corner, carefully feeding her little brother through a tube. Their eyes met for just 3 seconds. But what he did next didn't just change their lives, it changed his soul forever. Today you're going to discover how one moment of seeing, really seeing someone, can shatter every assumption you've made about success and purpose. I'll show you exactly what happened in that Valentim Hospital corridor, why that little girl was there alone, what the millionaire saw in her eyes that haunted him, and the decision that transformed everything. Stay until the end, because this story will make you question what you're doing with the wealth you have, whether it's money or time, or simply the ability to help. Before we start, tell me in the comments, have you ever walked past suffering because you were too focused on your own happiness? This story will make sure you never do that again. It was a bright Tuesday morning when Alexander Pierce walked through the main entrance of Valentim Hospital. He wasn't there because of illness or tragedy. He was there for the opposite reason, pure joy. His son, Benjamin, had been born just 3 days ago in the exclusive maternity wing. Healthy, perfect, 9 pounds of promise and future. Alexander had come to complete the final discharge paperwork and take his boy home to the penthouse overlooking the city. Alexander Pierce was 42 years old, self-made, brilliant. He'd built a tech empire from his college dorm room and turned it into a billion-dollar corporation before his 35th birthday. Money had never been the goal, but it had certainly been the result. And now, holding his firstborn son, Alexander felt something he'd never felt before, completeness. Like every decision, every sacrifice, every 18-hour workday had led to this moment. Benjamin stirred in his arms, making small sounds. Alexander looked down at the tiny face and smiled. "You're going home today, buddy. Your mom is waiting. Your nursery is ready. Your whole life is waiting." He walked toward the elevator, his expensive shoes clicking against the polished floor of Valentim Hospital. Everything felt perfect. Everything felt right. The elevator doors opened. Alexander stepped inside, shifting Benjamin gently to press the button for the 4th floor. As the doors began to close, he heard it. A small voice, soft but urgent. "Please don't cry, Tommy. I know it hurts, but you have to eat. Please." The elevator doors sealed shut. Alexander rode up in silence. But that voice stayed with him. Something about it, something young and tired and trying so hard to be strong. When the doors opened on the 4th floor, Alexander stepped out. The administrative offices were to the right. He'd complete the paperwork, collect the final medical records, and leave. Simple. But he paused. That voice, where had it come from? He looked down the corridor to his left, the pediatric wing. He hesitated. Benjamin made another small sound. Alexander looked at his son. "You know what, buddy? Let's take a different way, just this once." He turned left, walking slowly down the corridor of Valentim Hospital's pediatric wing. The walls were painted with cheerful murals, cartoon animals, rainbows, smiling suns. But Alexander could feel the heaviness beneath the bright colors. This was where sick children fought battles that adults could barely comprehend. He'd never been in this part of Valentim Hospital, had never had reason to. His world had been the executive maternity suites, the world of healthy babies and champagne celebrations. And then he saw her, in a small alcove near the windows, a girl, maybe 12 years old. She sat in a chair beside a hospital bed where a little boy lay, thin and pale. The girl held a syringe carefully, connected to a feeding tube that ran into the boy's stomach. Her hands were steady despite how small they were. Her face was focused, determined. She whispered encouragement. "Good job, Tommy. You're doing so good, almost done." Alexander stopped walking. He stood there, 20 feet away, just watching. The girl wore clothes that had been washed too many times. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail held by a rubber band. Not a proper hair tie. Her shoes were worn at the edges, but it was her eyes that caught him. Old eyes. Eyes that had seen too much. Eyes that belonged to someone who'd had to grow up far too fast. The little boy, Tommy, couldn't have been more than 4 years old. His head was wrapped in bandages. His skin had that translucent quality of the very ill. Tubes and wires connected him to machines that beeped softly. And his sister, because Alexander could see now that's what she was, cared for him with the precision of a trained nurse. Benjamin made a louder sound, almost a cry. The girl's head snapped up. Her eyes met Alexander's. For 3 seconds, they just looked at each other. Alexander, in his $1,000 suit, holding his healthy newborn. The girl in her worn clothes, holding a feeding syringe for her dying brother. The distance between their worlds was so vast, it could have been measured in light years. "I'm sorry," Alexander said quietly. "I didn't mean to intrude." The girl's expression didn't change. She looked back at her brother. "It's okay. We're almost finished anyway." Her voice was flat, exhausted. Alexander should have walked away. Should have continued to the administrative offices, completed his paperwork, taken his son home. But he couldn't move. "Is he your brother?" Alexander heard himself ask. The girl nodded without looking up. "Tommy. He's 4. He has a brain tumor." Alexander felt something clench in his chest. "I'm sorry." The girl shrugged, one small, tired movement. "Everyone's sorry, but sorry doesn't fix anything." The words were harsh, but her tone wasn't angry, just resigned, like she'd heard 1,000 sorries and learned they were just sounds people made. Alexander looked at the little boy, at the machines, at the medications lined up on the table. This was serious. This was life and death. "Where are your parents?" he asked gently. The girl's hands paused for just a moment, then continued their work. "Mom died 2 years ago. Car accident. Dad works construction. He's here at night after his shift. During the day, it's just me and Tommy." Alexander felt like he'd been punched. "You're here alone, all day?" The girl finished with the feeding tube, carefully disconnecting the syringe. "I'm not alone. I have Tommy. Besides, the nurses check on us, and Dr. Martinez comes by twice a day." She stood up, disposing of the syringe properly, washing her hands in the small sink. Alexander watched her move with practiced efficiency. "How long have you been doing this? Taking care of him like this?" The girl dried her hands. 6 months. Since the tumor came back, she sat back down beside her brother, taking his small hand in hers. The first time they removed it, said he was okay, but it grew back, bigger. Now they say, she paused, her voice catching for the first time, now they say there's nothing more they can do at Valentim Hospital. Alexander held Benjamin closer. "Nothing more?" The girl shook her head. "There's an experimental treatment in Boston, at a research hospital. They've had success with Tommy's type of tumor, but it costs $500,000, and we don't have insurance that covers experimental procedures." She said it matter-of-factly, like she was reading a grocery list, like she'd accepted this impossible reality. "Your father," Alexander began, "he's trying to raise the money." The girl laughed, a short, bitter sound that didn't belong in a 12-year-old. "My dad makes $30,000 a year. He's already sold everything we own. Our car, my mum's jewelry. We moved from our apartment to a single room in a motel so he could save on rent." She looked at Alexander directly now. "You do the math. How long would it take someone making $30,000 a year to save $500,000? Alexander didn't answer, because the answer was never. It would take never. The girl seemed to read his silence. "Exactly. So we're here at Valentim Hospital, making Tommy comfortable, making sure his last months are," she paused, looking at her little brother, "are filled with as much love as possible. Tell me in the comments, if you were standing there holding your healthy child, looking at a dying one, what would you do? Would you walk away, or would you stay?" Alexander stood frozen. Benjamin was warm in his arms, healthy and whole, and full of future. And 10 feet away was a little boy the same age Benjamin would be in 4 years, with no future at all. It felt obscene. The distance between them, the injustice of it. "I'm Alexander," he said finally. "Alexander Pierce." The girl nodded. "I know who you are. I saw you on the cover of a magazine in the waiting room. tech billionaire, youngest self-made whatever. She said it without awe or judgment, just fact. "What's your name?" Alexander asked. The girl hesitated, then said quietly, Lily Morrison, and this is Tommy." Alexander stepped closer. "Hi, Tommy." The little boy's eyes fluttered open. They were a bright, startling blue. He looked at Alexander with innocent curiosity. "You have a baby," Tommy whispered. His voice was thin, weak. "I do," Alexander said. "His name is Benjamin. He's 3 days old." Tommy smiled, a real smile that transformed his pale face. "He's lucky." Alexander felt tears prick his eyes. "Why do you say that, Tommy?" "Because he has you." Tommy's small hand squeezed his sister's. "And you have your sister. We're both lucky that way." The simple wisdom of it, the pure acceptance, broke something open in Alexander's chest. Lily smoothed Tommy's hair gently. "You should rest now. You used a lot of energy eating." Tommy nodded, his eyes already closing. "Love you, Lily. Love you more, Tommy," she whispered back. Within moments, the little boy was asleep. Lily stood, checking his monitors, adjusting his blanket with careful precision. Then she turned to Alexander. "You should go. Your son is healthy. You don't need to be in this part of Valentim Hospital. It wasn't cruel, just honest." Alexander looked at her, at this 12-year-old who'd become a mother, a nurse, a guardian. "How do you do it?" he asked. "How do you stay strong?" Lily met his eyes. "Because Tommy needs me to. Because if I break down, he has no one during the day. Because," her voice finally cracked, "because he's my little brother and I'd do anything for him, even if anything isn't enough." Alexander made a decision in that moment, a decision that would change everything. "What if it could be enough?" he said quietly. Lily looked at him warily. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if Tommy could get that treatment in Boston? What if the $500,000 wasn't impossible?" Lily's expression hardened. Please don't do that. Don't give me hope as some feel-good gesture. I've learned hope is the cruelest thing when it's just words." "I'm not talking about words," Alexander said. "I'm talking about action." Lily stared at him. "You don't even know us. Why would you?" She couldn't even finish the sentence. Alexander looked down at Benjamin, then at Tommy. "Because your brother deserves the same chance mine has. Because you deserve to be 12 years old, not a full-time caregiver. Because I have resources I did nothing to earn beyond being born with a brain that understands code. And you have nothing despite doing everything right." He pulled out his phone. "Give me the name of the treatment center in Boston. The doctor's name, everything you know." Lily didn't move. "This is real? You're serious?" "Completely serious," Alexander said. Lily's hands shook as she pulled a worn folder from a bag beside the chair. Inside were printed articles, doctor's notes, research papers. She'd done her homework, had researched everything even knowing it was out of reach. She handed the folder to Alexander. "Boston Children's Research Hospital. Dr. Rebecca Walsh. The treatment is called targeted genetic therapy. It's experimental, but they've had an 82% success rate with Tommy's tumor type." Alexander photographed every page with his phone. Then he made a call, right there in the corridor of Valentim Hospital. His assistant answered immediately. "Mr. Pierce." Alexander spoke clearly. "Sarah, I need you to do something. Contact Boston Children's Research Hospital, Dr. Rebecca Walsh. I'm sending you information now. There's a patient, Tommy Morrison, currently at Valentim Hospital. 4 years old, brain tumor. He needs immediate transfer and enrollment in their experimental genetic therapy program. Cost is irrelevant. Make it happen. Today." Lily's hand went to her mouth. Alexander continued. "Also, contact housing services in Boston. Find a fully furnished apartment near the hospital. 2 bedrooms, available immediately, for however long the treatment takes. And arrange transportation. Medical transport for Tommy. First-class flights for his family." Sarah's voice came through the phone. "Consider it done, Mr. Pierce. I'll have preliminary arrangements within the hour." Alexander hung up. He looked at Lily, who had tears streaming down her face. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this?" Alexander's own eyes were wet. He looked at his son, then at Tommy. Because I was walking through Valentim Hospital celebrating having everything. And I saw you having nothing, giving everything. That's not right. That's not a world I want Benjamin to grow up in. One where zip codes and bank accounts determine who lives and who dies. But you don't owe us anything, Lily said. You're right, Alexander agreed. I don't owe you, but I owe the universe. I owe whatever force gave me wealth and opportunity. I owe the mother I had who taught me that privilege comes with responsibility. And maybe, he looked at Benjamin, maybe I owe my son the example of what you do when you have power. You use it to lift others. Lily's legs seemed to give out. She sat down hard in the chair. My dad. I need to call my dad. He's at work, but... Alexander handed her his phone. Call him now. Tell him to come to Valentim Hospital immediately. Tell him it's good news. Lily took the phone with shaking hands. She dialed. When a rough voice answered, she could barely speak through tears. Dad, you need to come to the hospital. No, Tommy's okay. Just come, please. Something happened. Something good. An hour later, Marcus Morrison arrived at Valentim Hospital. He was a big man, weathered by hard work and harder grief. When Lily explained what Alexander had done, the man broke down completely. He grabbed Alexander's hand with his calloused grip. I don't know what to say, Marcus said through tears. How to thank you. You're giving me my son back. You don't need to thank me, Alexander said. Just love him. Fight for him. That's all the thanks I need. By that evening, everything was arranged. Tommy would be transported to Boston the following morning. A medical team would accompany him. The apartment was ready. Marcus would take emergency leave from work, and the treatment center confirmed Tommy was an ideal candidate for their program. Dr. Walsh herself called, cautiously optimistic. We can't promise miracles, she told Alexander, but we can promise our very best effort. That's all I'm asking, Alexander replied. That night, Alexander went home to his penthouse. His wife, Catherine, met him at the door with concern. You were gone all day. Is everything okay with the discharge? Alexander looked at her, at their beautiful home, at their healthy son sleeping in an expensive crib. Then he told her everything, about Lily, about Tommy, about the choice he'd made. When he finished, Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'm proud of you. This is who I fell in love with, the man who sees people, not balance sheets. Over the following months, Alexander stayed connected with the Morrisons. Tommy responded remarkably to the treatment. The tumor began shrinking, his strength returned. The experimental therapy was working. Alexander would receive updates, photos of Tommy smiling, gaining weight, playing with toys. And Lily, finally allowed to be 12, enrolled in a good school in Boston. Her emails to Alexander were full of normal kid things, classes she liked, friends she made, the school play she got a part in. But it was Tommy's drawing that Alexander framed in his office, a crayon picture of two figures, one tall, holding a baby, one small, in a hospital bed. Between them, a red heart. The words written in careful child handwriting, thank you for seeing us. Love, Tommy. Every time Alexander looked at it, he remembered that moment in the corridor at Valentim Hospital, the moment that changed everything. 6 months after that day, Alexander established the Valentim Hope Foundation. Its mission was simple, identify children at Valentim Hospital and beyond who needed treatments their families couldn't afford, and make those treatments possible. The foundation covered experimental therapies, clinical trials, cutting-edge procedures, whatever gave kids a fighting chance. Marcus Morrison became the foundation's first employee. His job was to walk the halls of Valentim Hospital and other hospitals, talking to families, finding the children who'd fallen through the system's cracks. A year after that encounter, Alexander received a call. It was Dr. Walsh from Boston. Mr. Pierce, I wanted to tell you personally. Tommy Morrison is in complete remission. The tumor is gone. Completely. We're cautiously calling it cured. Alexander had to sit down. He's cured? Dr. Walsh's voice was warm. Thanks to you, yes. He'll need monitoring, of course, but he's going to live a normal, full life. That weekend, the Morrisons came to visit. Tommy ran into the room with energy that seemed impossible for a child who'd been dying a year before. "Mr. Pierce!" he shouted, launching himself at Alexander. Alexander caught him, hugging him tight. "Hey, Tommy, look at you. So strong." Tommy grinned. "I'm all better. The doctor said the bad stuff is gone." He looked at Benjamin, now over a year old, toddling around. "Can I play with Benjamin?" "Of course," Catherine said, already setting up toys. The two boys, one who'd been given everything and one who'd been given a second chance, played together while the adults watched. Lily sat beside Alexander. She looked different, still serious, still mature beyond her years, but lighter somehow. "I got straight A's this semester," she said. "I know," Alexander replied. "Your dad sent me your report card. He's very proud." She smiled. "I'm thinking maybe I want to be a doctor, so I can help kids like Tommy." Alexander looked at her. "You'd be an amazing doctor, Lily. You already saved Tommy's life long before I came along. You kept him fighting, kept him loved. That's the real medicine." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you for everything, for seeing us that day, for not just walking past." Alexander shook his head. "You have it backwards, Lily. Thank you for letting me see, for reminding me what matters. I walked into Valentim Hospital that day thinking I had everything, but I was empty in ways I didn't even realize. You and Tommy filled something in me that all the money in the world never could. Tell me in the comments, has anyone ever changed your life just by letting you help them? Share your story." 5 years later, Alexander stood in the auditorium at Valentim Hospital. The Valentim Hope Foundation was celebrating its 5th anniversary. Over those 5 years, they'd helped 372 children receive life-saving treatments. 214 of those children were now in full remission. The survival rate was stunning. On the stage behind Alexander were photos. Children who'd been given second chances. Tommy's face was among them, now a healthy 9-year-old. Alexander spoke to the gathered crowd of donors, doctors, and families. 5 years ago, I walked through these halls, celebrating my own good fortune, and I nearly missed the most important moment of my life. He told the story about Lily feeding her brother, about 3 seconds of eye contact, about the choice to not look away. "Because that's what we do, isn't it?" he said. "We look away from suffering when we're in seasons of joy. We protect our happiness by pretending we don't see the pain around us." I almost did that, almost walked past, but something stopped me. He paused. Maybe it was the voice I heard in the elevator. Maybe it was the way Lily's hands were so steady, even though she was just a child. Maybe it was seeing my own son and realizing how arbitrary it all is. Why does Benjamin get to be healthy while Tommy fought for every breath? There's no good answer to that, no fairness in it, but there is choice. We can't control who gets sick, but we can control whether we help. In the audience, Lily Morrison sat beside her father. She was 17 now, in her senior year of high school. She'd already been accepted to 3 pre-med programs. Tommy sat on her other side, completely healthy, completely normal. Just a kid who liked soccer and video games and annoying his sister. When Alexander finished speaking, Lily stood. She'd been asked to say a few words. She walked to the microphone, poised and confident. 5 years ago, I was 12 years old and completely alone. My little brother was dying. I'd accepted it. Had made peace with losing him, because what else could I do? We had no money, no options, no hope. She looked directly at Alexander. Then a man holding his newborn son saw us, really saw us. Not just looked in our direction, but saw our humanity, our struggle, our worth. And he made a choice that gave my brother life. Her voice caught. But he also gave me something. He gave me my childhood back. He gave my father his son back. He gave me the ability to dream about the future instead of just surviving the present. Tommy's alive because of the Valentim Hope Foundation. But I'm alive too. I was disappearing into the role of caregiver, losing myself. Mr. Pierce didn't just save Tommy. He saved our whole family. There wasn't a dry eye in the auditorium. Lily continued, "I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to specialize in pediatric oncology. And I'm going to spend my life giving other families what Mr. Pierce gave mine." Hope, not just the hope that comes from money, though that matters, but the hope that comes from being seen, from mattering, from knowing someone cares whether you live or die. After the ceremony, Alexander found Marcus Morrison. The two men embraced. "You changed everything," Marcus said. "5 years and I still can't believe it. How do I ever repay this?" "You already have," Alexander replied. "Tommy's healthy. Lily's thriving. You've helped us find dozens of other families through the foundation." "That's the repayment, passing it forward." Tommy ran up, pulling at Alexander's sleeve. "Mr. Pierce, Dad says maybe you and Mrs. Pierce and Benjamin can come to my soccer game next week. I'm really good now." Alexander laughed. "We'll be there, Tommy. Wouldn't miss it." As Tommy ran off, Marcus said quietly, "You know, I used to be so angry. At God, at the universe, at everyone who had healthy kids when mine was dying. That anger was eating me alive. But you showed me something different. Showed me there are people who care, who help, who see strangers as family." That night, Alexander sat in his home office. Benjamin, now 6 years old, was asleep. Catherine was reading in the other room. Alexander pulled up the photo on his computer, the one from that first day. Someone at Valentim Hospital had captured it without him knowing. Alexander standing in the corridor, holding newborn Benjamin, looking at Lily and Tommy, the distance between them so visible. The moment before everything changed, he thought about the person he'd been 5 years ago. Successful, yes. Wealthy, certainly, but somehow small, limited, focused only on his own world. That moment at Valentim Hospital had cracked him open, had shown him that his life wasn't just about building companies or accumulating wealth. It was about what he did with those resources, how he saw people, whether he chose connection or isolation. His phone buzzed. A message from Dr. Martinez, the pediatric oncologist at Valentim Hospital, who'd first cared for Tommy. "Mr. Pierce wanted to let you know, just admitted a 7-year-old girl, Rosita Gonzalez, rare kidney disease. Needs a transplant and specialized post-op care. Family are farm workers. No insurance. Thought of the foundation." Alexander didn't hesitate. "Send me the details. We'll cover everything." Within minutes, Dr. Martinez replied with information. Alexander forwarded it to the foundation team. By morning, Rosita would be on the transplant list with full financial backing. This was his life now. Not just board meetings and profit margins, but moments like this. Emails that meant life instead of death. Calls that gave families hope. Walking through Valentim Hospital and other hospitals, not just as a donor, but as someone who genuinely cared. He'd learned something that day 5 years ago. Something Lily had taught him without meaning to. That seeing people, really seeing them in their struggle and their humanity, was the most important skill anyone could develop. A millionaire visiting Valentim Hospital with his baby saw a girl feeding her brother. 3 seconds of eye contact, one choice to not look away, and everything changed, not just for the Morrisons, but for Alexander, for the hundreds of families the foundation would help, for Benjamin, who grew up watching his father choose compassion over comfort. The ripples spread far beyond what anyone could measure. If this story touched you, if it made you think about the people you walk past every day, about the suffering you don't see because you choose not to look, share it. Because we all have wealth, maybe not in money, but in time, in attention, in our ability to witness someone else's pain and choose to care. A millionaire visiting Valentim Hospital with his baby saw a girl feeding her brother. But it was the girl who gave him the greatest gift, the gift of purpose, of connection, of understanding that we're all in this together. Don't look away. Don't protect your happiness by ignoring someone else's pain. See people, really see them, because in that seeing, in that choice to care, that's where everything changes. That's where you find what you didn't even know you were missing. That's where you become fully human.